All right. Welcome to the January CoBUG meeting presentation. Today's topic is Ask the Experts. And I'll introduce our panel of experts. We have Beth Evanue, BIM Manager, OHM Advisors.
Hello.
Dan Tartaglia, Senior Associate, MBBJ, Digital Development and Team Leader. Are you here, Dan?
Yes, I am. Yes,
Okay.
I am.
All right. Good to have you. David Morales, BIM Leader at MBBJ.
Hello.
Hi. Eric Blackburn, BIM Manager, Berardi Partners.
Hi, everybody.
Joshua Hostetler, BIM Manager, Design Group.
Hello.
Navid Herzad, Application Expert, BSD, Imagine It.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. And Tim Tobin, whose name I totally misspelled and apologize for, Application Expert, BSD, Imagine It.
Hello,
I'm
hello,
so sorry.
hello.
Hello. Just a little dyslexia kicked in there. So sorry.
It's all right.
So we already have a couple of questions that have come in. Thank you to those who sent them in. We're going to start by answering those. We're going to utilize chat today. And also the audio chat. So if someone's in the process of answering a question and you've thought of one, go ahead and type it in. That way we can make sure your question gets asked. So as I said, we're going to start with the two that came in earlier. We had one regarding roofs. Eric, you said you were going to take that one. And are you going to demonstrate?
Yeah, I don't have a demonstration set up yet, but essentially looking at the image that was sent, he's got a 2x12 rafter essentially from the outside face of the wall sloping up. It's got shingles and sheeting and presumably drywall on the inside face of that. And then beyond the face of the exterior wall, he's got probably an 8 or 9 inch extension for the soffit. It can be done kind of two ways. Essentially, if they're trimming the 2x12s, they have to cut and notch them to come up with a thinner section that extends and forms the soffit. The underside of which is along the same slope with some type of soffit material, presumably. So they could either notch the 2x12s and cut them to have that little extension forming the soffit, or they could basically sister a smaller 2x6 or whatever to the side of the 2x12s and then get the extension that way. So whichever is easier for the contractors to build, whether they want to spend the time notching all the 2x12s or they want to sister the soffit extensions to the side of the 2x12s. How I would work it essentially is create two roof systems. The first one with all your components for the 2x12 roof, basically extending to the outside face of the exterior wall. And then you'd have a second roofing system that's the thinner profile, the 2x6 presumably. You'd have the same shingles and sheeting on the top surface, and then on the underside you'd have whatever finished material soffit that would be. So you'd have about 8 or 9 inch extension roof, and then you'd have the main roof with all the other components. Once those are placed, then you can join them and all of the similar components. So if it's lumber in a 2x12, the lumber in the 2x6 would also join and merge without any lines. So then you detail components. So that's how I would approach that one. If it's even simpler roof where there's not a lot of complexity to the footprint. You could do it with basically an extruded roof with that profile from, you know, left to right if you're in plan. But if the plan is changing, then it's harder to do the extrusions that way. But didn't quite get enough information to see any kind of footprint. So I would do the two roof systems that would be joined together essentially after they were placed. So hope that helps.
Huh? I'm looking.
Did that answer the question?
I mean, yeah, it's pretty much the way, that was my question. This is Tim Shamblin, Rogers Cranack Architects. I was mostly asking to see if there was a slicker way of doing it, as I've found.
Master model.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I think someone was answering a question from someone in their office and they didn't use their mic.
I was just looking to see if there was a slightly slicker way of doing it, just because moving two roof systems around has just been kind of annoying when I've been working through it, but it's functional. I was looking to see, I tried briefly myself yesterday after I sent the question to do basically some fascia families with custom, you know, a parametric slope and everything, and joining it in wasn't working really well. But anyway,
Well, not to say that this is necessarily a great option as well, but you can create an in-place component that will cut that piece. And can you share my screen real quick? Or
Absolutely. Okay, now you should be able to share.
let's see if that's going to come up right. Okay, so for example, this is kind of what you were looking at right here. Can everyone see that, I guess?
You have it on the wrong screen.
Is it on the wrong screen? What are you looking at?
We're
Yeah, we
looking at a
see your
calendar.
Okay, is that better?
There you go.
Okay. Figures. So, what I did here is that this is just the same basic roof system. And I'm not necessarily recommending this is the best practice. This is just another option. We were talking earlier, and, like anything else, there's multiple ways to do this. But I came in and I created an in-place component that basically just cut that, so that there was a piece that took care of that for me. This is an example of those two rows together, which you've already played with. But inside here, I'm trying to find it, and now I can't. But I had just created a piece that let me an in-place family, there it is, that let me cut it. So I just created that. I don't know if that's an any better solution. There's still issues that go along with that. You can lock some of this stuff so it moves with the objects as well. But it is kind of a nice clean, and you're still only dealing with one roof system.
yeah, that's an interesting way to approach it. There's definitely a couple cases where I could see using that instead of two roofs. So thank you.
Yeah, sure. You do know that you want to keep, the number of in-place families, to a minimum, but.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're also going to explore the in-place family route, you could always just do a sweep with a profile that would allow you to have more functionality in plan and change directions and wrap and things like that.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
But again, you should minimize your use of in place.
I think I stopped sharing, right, Ann? So you can have that back.
I believe you did. Oops. All right. Let me bring up our next question. All right. It's a 3-part tag annotation question. The first part is way to toggle tag leader with hotkey, either with an add-in or native Revit feature before or during placement. Way to have a single pipe, duct tag, etc. that can align with element or toggle horizontal vertical in a single family. He's found 2. And then a way to quickly align tags of a similar type after placement. Has anyone found a way to do that? Navid, you were going to take this question.
Yeah, I'm here. I'll
Okay.
go ahead and share my screen.
Okay.
Share. So if I remember correctly, Zoom is backwards. 2 is 1 and 1 is 2. So you should be able to see my email there, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, here's the question, the 3-part question. So the first one, way to toggle leaders through hotkeys. Not sure what version this was in, but yeah, we actually have them now. So if you go to shortcut keys, so either going file options or just type in KS, which is the shortcut key to, well, shortcut keys. My file menu always takes a long time to load because of BIM 360. Come on, Revit. There we go. Options, user interface, shortcut keys, customization, and then search for leader. So you can see here, we actually have shortcut keys for all the different leaders. So let's say if I wanted to add a leader to a straight leader to the left side, then I can select here, assign a shortcut key, maybe AS or AL, or say leader, straight, so the LS, assign. Okay, so now executing that will bring up the leader on any text. So, or tag will also similarly do that. So if I was to create a piece of text and place it, adds a leader to the left side. And you could do this on multiple texts as well. Next one, ways to have a single pipe or duct tag that can align with multiple elements horizontally or vertically within a single family. I guess if I understand this correctly, I think it's already built into Revit, if I'm not mistaken. So for instance, if I wanted to tag all of these, I could just go to annotate, tag by category, or I say tag all. And if I say duct tags, so right here, I can actually choose if I want them to be horizontal or vertical. And it will tag them the same way. Now, if I also tag a duct just one at a time, I can also choose here if I want it to be horizontal or vertical.
No,
There are
you picked door tags, not duct tags. You did that.
Oh, that's probably why I didn't end up tagging anything. Let's go tag all. Duct tags. Thanks. There you go.
There they are.
Was this the question that I don't know if that you were asking to have these oriented?
Yeah,
Did
so
you-
this is Kevin at KLH. I posed these questions. For this one, I guess it more related to, so like I deal with a lot of like piping and duct isometrics,
Mhm.
not necessarily tagging in plan. And I was just kind of asking because to my knowledge, like when you open up a tag family, there's a parameter checkbox for whether or not it will align with element.
Yeah.
And in my perfect world, I want a tag that like I can toggle, I guess horizontal or vertical, and then like I toggle one more time and like it aligns with element. But it's like from everything I've seen, like that is a type parameter of the tag. So like I have to have one tag that aligns and one tag that doesn't, if that makes sense.
So I do follow you with the align feature. That does essentially prohibit you from being able to move it like this. Like if I was to edit this family and then force it to be
or rotate with component, I think.
Rotate with component, yeah. So this essentially breaks the ability for you to shift it via vertical and horizontal. It's just stuck now because the element is vertical, so therefore the tag will be vertical. So I usually don't have that on. I haven't really ran into a situation where I needed it, so that I could actually choose if I wanted it to be vertical or horizontal via this drop down.
Okay.
So I made a little isometric here as well. So what trouble do you run into when you're doing these, for instance?
Like if you wanted to tag that duct, I guess that main duct.
Okay.
Yeah, it might help to delete some of those.
So flex duct?
Maybe try like the rectangular, yeah. That main rectangular.
With or without a leader?
Maybe without a leader, yeah.
Okay.
So like if I wanted that tag and not have a different family, like if I wanted that to like align to the like duct itself.
You basically want an orthographic tag is what you're
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that I've seen. I got you now. So if you want this, yeah, actually one thing I've even done in the past, that's a cool trick to have it read only. I mean, rotate with component. I've also seen just making different types of tags with like 45 degrees as their name, where you rotate it 45 and that kind of shows you as a kind of aligning and orthogonal. But I have not come across a way of being able to get this and this to be together.
Okay.
Has anyone else? No? Okay. But I will keep that in mind. If I do come up with something, I can definitely let you know. But yeah, that's probably the best way to move. I wonder if I could assign this to a parameter. 2021.
Well, if you take that,
yeah, I was wondering if you could set a rotation parameter inside the annotation.
if you go into the
Set it
edit
as an
type,
instance parameter.
you of that piece of text or that label, about the best you can do is do an italic, which will slant it some, but not necessarily in the direction that you want it to slant.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a way to customize that italic feature.
Yeah, and I haven't seen them be able to assign this to a parameter yet. I'm sure there's probably something you can do through Revit API, or I don't know if don't see a Dynamo being able to fix this either. Yeah, I feel like your best bet might be to try to find a way to add this to a parameter or go with just two families. Because even if we do add like an angle of say 45 or 35 or whatever, but it wouldn't really work well because the moment you rotate it like this or like that, then the angle wouldn't look right.
Right.
So your best bet would be to toggle on and off the align with component, because this will always get it perfectly right.
Gotcha.
And I think the last question are ways to quickly align tags for similar. I use a free add-in called Align by BIM 42. And you can see it does a lot of the stuff that you could kind of then do with AutoCAD. So if I go back to my one here, if I add some more tags, try to, we have to set this back to original. So I've got these tags. It usually gets added to your add-ins tab, and then here they all are. Pretty self-explanatory. I mean, you could either select the command first or pick the objects first. So if I pick the objects, go to add-ins, and then say perhaps align to left, it aligns them all towards the left. If they're maybe not placed equally distanced apart or something like that, you could also select them, add-ins, and here you have distribute vertically. You'll equally place them.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Even if they're like sort of tangled into one another, like this is going there and this is going here, something that you can actually select it, and there's an untangle button. Untangle vertically, untangle horizontally. Kind of shoots up in the air, but it still helps a bit better because you could then just move them down. And the leaders don't move, just the text moves. So long as
Yeah, I got you. You said that one was free?
Yeah, it's free. I've
Sweet.
never had to pay for it for a while now, and it is updated up to Revit 2021.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll check that one out.
I could try to post the link on the chat if that's helpful. All right, I'll pass it back to you, Anne.
All right. Do we have any other questions? Any issues that have come up that people have tried to solve? The BIM 42 Align has been posted. They're in the chat box. So if you want to click on that, you'll be able to access it for yourselves. All right, here's a question for the experts. What are some of the questions you get asked most? Do you have any that you'd like to share?
One lately I've been asked numerous times was how to automatically create elevations and actually put them on sheets. We're looking to create a tool in-house that can possibly do that, but we also use something called CoBUG that has that ability. We're working with CoBUG. CoBUG's sort of like Revit, if you're familiar with Revit. It's like database applications that work with Revit. And working with CoBUG to come out with a light version of code that could just do some of those kind of tasks instead of the whole database paradigm. That's something that we test fairly often in our company.
Dan, you were a little hard to hear. You were talking about a way that you've, if I understand correctly, you've automated.
Is this better?
You seem to have a buzzing sound in the background.
You do?
Yep.
Oh. Maybe with my computer. My computer battery didn't explode, I think, on my laptop, so I need to back away from that. Is that better?
I can hear you better.
Okay. No, I was just saying that we're looking to create an in-house tool that can automatically create elevations and place them on sheets with the rooms that we select. But the problem is that we use something called CoBUG, which is similar to, which is a database application, sort of like the Revit, where you connect data to the model. And this software actually has that ability built in. So yeah, we haven't created the tool yet. That's a question we get asked a lot about. I don't know if anybody else gets that kind of question.
Well, when you get it figured out, we'd love to see it.
Yeah, definitely. If I get a chance to create it, I'll definitely do it. I mean, I know it's been done in Dynamo a while back by somebody. It's just the fact that, you know, I'm not sure if it still works in current version. If anybody else has that ability on the phone, who has something like that created already or not. But that's just one thing. There's so many add-ins out there, you know, there's so many add-ins out there that you can download these days. It's hard to come up with new ones to create that isn't recreating the new one, you know. That's one of them right there.
Has anyone else tried to do this? Or experimented with this or found someone online who's figured this out?
Couldn't really hear what he was saying.
They're working on using something, I think he said CodeWall, to create the views for elevations to go on sheets. Is that correct, Dan?
You know what, let me change, I have my headset into a USB connector. One second. Is that better?
I can hear you better.
Okay. Computer crap. CodeBook is the application I mentioned. It's like if you're familiar with Revit, which you may or may not be. Not everybody uses those kinds of applications, but they're database applications that connect with Revit to help you create schedules or help you align information with the database and your model. This one software called CodeBook we decided to go with instead of Revit. Because it's a little cheaper and we have an in-house expert. But this software has the ability to do that, actually create the elevations and put them on sheets. Not every project uses that software. You know, only the larger projects do. So we want to create something in-house that can do it. And I was just curious if anybody else has attempted to create something like that before.
I'm not aware of anyone who's tried to do that. And I've not heard of Europus before.
Okay. I mean, it's one of those things. There's so many things out there.
Is that a free add-on or is that a program that you purchase?
Derofus is very expensive. It's really expensive. You have to have a real need for, like, maybe for healthcare equipment or a lot of furniture, or it's a database application basically.
Okay.
I put the name of it in the chat. Some of you probably heard of it. Some of you probably haven't. It's called Derofus, and that's just one of them. The one that we're using is called CodeBook, which is very similar to that, but it's just it does create the elevations, but it's not cheap either. Neither one is free. They're both very
expensive.
Can be expensive, yeah. So creating something in house would be easier, not easier, but make more sense. For something like that, I mean, we have other applications we created in house that I created in 2009. We're in 2009 that we're using today on our large projects. Those are not out there. They're more complicated, add-ins. But there's so many add-ins out there. But this particular one, I haven't seen anywhere. Yeah, I just thought I'd bring that up. I don't want to hog the rest of the meeting.
Okay.
Was any other ones that you guys have? Questions you guys know of?
Well, we do have a new question from Robert Connor with Prater. He would like to know how you handle deployment of add-ins, updates, and other customizations. For an example, they've had to go to each machine in the office for some of the add-ins to be installed.
I use a packager software that you see many times when you install it in any application. You see a dialog box pop up and hit next. It's called Create Install, and it's free. There's a free version of it, and that works very well. But with this software, you can actually tell it with logic to look for different versions of Revit that's installed. And when you run the EXE, it'll look for that Revit version, and if it's installed, it'll install the add-in where you want to install the add-in. You have to tell it where to install the add-in files. But what I do is I give that EXE to our infrastructure team for deployment throughout the firm, and they run it on every computer. And the whole idea is that all they have to do is run it, because the EXE checks for the Revit, right? So if you don't have Revit installed, it won't do anything. But if you have any version, in my case, from Revit 2016 to Revit 2021, any version installed, it'll just automatically put the add-in in place. So that's one way we've been deploying add-ins.
Okay. Has anyone done their deployments a little differently, or?
I mean, we do as much as we can in the deployment in terms of customizations. In terms of the Revit INI file, there's some settings and customizations you can change there, but we're still in the same boat for add-ins and things like that. We're still doing that on each individual user's machine.
If anybody wants wants a demo of this Create Install, how we're using it, let me know. Because again, all our IT department does is have to, they have to just deploy it to every computer, and then it does all the work. So just let me know. We'll always have another Zoom call or something. We want to just see how we're using it.
We could have that as a topic for a future meeting if everyone's interested.
And besides that, we have some add-ins that we try to deploy with deployment of Revit, but that doesn't always seem to work in our case. For some reason, the deployment process doesn't always work. We try to do it with the actual Revit installation. I don't know why. It should. STCM should work, but it doesn't always seem to work for us.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions?
Just going back to the deploy side, I think I'll just list the Autodesk help page on how you could customize your deployment. So if you're looking for Revit customizations to be included in your deployment, the best way is to just create a Revit INI file on one computer and then include that INI file inside your deployment. And that's actually just a part of the out-of-the-box Revit installation. So the INI file can have everything from template locations to custom family library locations to even how keybinds are set up. In terms of adding extensions, also in the link I sent, it tells you how you could add extensions again inside the out-of-the-box Revit deployment. You can actually create a deployment file, an MSI file, and you could deploy that onto computers. For the actual deployment side, I use PDQ deploy. That's the basic one. I think it's free, but you will have to pay for at least the entry level one. I would recommend. It's pretty cheap though. But yeah, I'll post that as well. PDQ deploy. You can do everything for silent deployments, so all the installations are done overnight. You can also monitor all of the machines with contents that have already been deployed on them. So you can kind of track which ones are missing certain softwares or missing certain updates.
I think in our case, SCCM does that for us, but we've added so much security recently, you know, for malware and ransomware and every other kind of ware out there, that sometimes the deployment process fails, you know, in that respect. But, you know, every company's different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have a lot of companies beefed up their security out of curiosity because of all the cyber attacks?
Yeah, we've had a lot of training going on.
Yeah, us too.
For IT, do you have someone in-house that handles all your IT, or do you hire someone outside the firm to oversee all of your IT? I've seen companies do it one way or the other, and sometimes it's they do both. They have someone who oversees IT in the firm, but they've hired an outside group to maintain computers, watch over security, that type of thing. I was wondering what your all's thoughts were.
MBBJ is all internal for the most part, except for some offices like Shanghai, where it's hard to find a reliable, not necessarily reliable, somebody we trust. So we have a consultant in our Shanghai office, but for the most part, it's all internal.
We OHM also has all internal, but we're as a 500 person plus company, it kind of made sense at a certain level.
Mm-hmm.
Previous firms I've been at, it's been more of the other way, where there's a overseer internally, but there's an external company that's doing the maintenance and the large scale changes.
I have a question for everybody. Do you guys, are you guys up on Revit 2021 at this point? Or how many versions back do you guys have projects?
Just debating this morning.
I think we at Design Group, we're currently running, I think, 2017 through 2021. We're trying to get everything 2017, 18, 19 upgraded. But we have some projects that are in closeout that we don't feel it necessary to upgrade at this time, but that's pretty much what we're carrying.
I think we saw some 2016 projects floating around too. Take special licenses for them, unfortunately, but for all the versions, but you can't help it all the time, as you know.
We've got, I think, we're doing pretty good. We're just back to 2018.
That's good.
We do the odd numbered releases. We have 17, 19, and 21.
Why do you do just the odd number of releases?
You'd have to ask IT that, but I don't mind where I came from. We were on 15, 17, and 18, and we had a couple licenses in 19, so we were much farther back.
Those of you that are using...
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that debating how to get everyone on a yearly release where we can deploy it in a timely manner, but not before they've gotten the kinks out of it.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe the first of the year, the February 1st or something like that, creating the new, anything after that point becomes the latest release. So like this February, say, we'd start in anything new in 2021. Because we've been doing something similar where we have a every other year, but I hate to miss out on the updates each year, but I don't want to muddy the waters either.
I was going to ask, those of you that are using 2021 currently, have any of you been experiencing the user license expired issue that's a glitch within the system and found any ways to get around it? It's just, I can post an image of the issue if you'd like, but it's the error that pops up that says your license has expired and there's only 10 minutes remaining before your application will be closed. Have any of you been experiencing that or found a way around that? It seems to mostly be happening when users are linking in CAD or Revit or even loading in families.
Never heard of that happening.
Yeah, I get it.
Named users.
Sorry, there was two of you that spoke.
Yeah, I get it all the time. This is Navid here. The latest update does fix that. Well, at least tries to. Not sure if it's going to prompt another one. It is named license, I believe, that causes this. And typically, if you are doing something that causes your account to be disconnected from the online, online Autodesk account, then it triggers that gray page with the words in the center that you've lost connection, or it comes up with that small dialog saying that you have 10 minutes. In either case, if you reconnect to your account, you typically just look up top right corner, you can see that you're no longer logged into your Autodesk account. If you log back in, usually it doesn't let you keep the session. Even if you hit OK, it says it's going to terminate it, but if it sees that you're logged back in, it actually doesn't terminate Revit. Hope that helped.
I'll have to check with some of my users. From my understanding is it's not when it gives them that, but it still shows that they're signed in. It doesn't actually sign them up.
Does that only happen with the named users as opposed to the floating licenses or the older system?
That I do not know.
I believe it's only the named users.
I don't think I've seen that with without the named users. We haven't switched over to that.
And does that involve any of the cloud services like BIM 360 or any other types of access that way?
Yeah, the only users, I mean, right now, every one of our projects is on BIM 360, so that issue is arising on our BIM 360 projects.
Okay, yeah, we don't use BIM 360 very often, if at all, where I'm at now.
Eric, what are you using for your collaboration from home or remotely?
We basically, I use, trying to think of the name of it. Basically VPN in with a remote desktop. So I'm remote controlling my computer from home.
Makes sense. We do a hybrid. I mean, we use BIM 360 for almost everything, but we have a lot of people who would rather remote their work computers at work to get faster speeds.
It was definitely much faster. So where I was previously, we had some projects we were doing in BIM 360. It made a huge difference as far as accessing, logging into the file and synchronizing. It was much faster than trying to do it through a VPN or any other method where you're accessing the files off a local server.
I was talking to HKS's BIM manager before, and they're actually still using Revit server. That's still up and running.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be phased out in the next couple of years, but they haven't gone to BIM 360 as far as I know.
I know Autodesk made it BIM 360 free for a while, starting in March or whenever, March or April, and the free trial kind of expired, and that was kind of a nice gesture, but at the same time, a lot of people didn't really need to lock themselves into the BIM 360. It'd be simpler if it was included with the subscription. Yeah. They keep emphasizing it, but it still is a separate price that people have some justifiable resistance to spending more money on something that anyway, it's part of a problem of their own making, and they keep adding more and more extensions, glue and design and documents and field. And I think there's probably more than 50 different cloud services. If you check on there's a web page you can go to check the status of their cloud services, and there's more than 50 different applications that are using stuff. Some of it discontinued, but still supported, and some of it new. And so.
Yeah, the only one we use, we don't use it, but other companies use it on our BIM 360 hub is probably Clarity. Other than that, we have an in-house backup system we created in Forge. That's the only two external applications we use in BIM 360.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
Does anybody have any other 3D content sources? So obviously BIM Object, Revit City, BIM Smith, BIM Forge are some of the obvious ones. There's KCL CAD, which is more commercial kitchen equipment. What about people and Entourage for renderings and animations and things? Any good free sites that people know about, or do we end up, buying certain content from Turbo Squid or others? How do you find good sources for families that don't exist yet, or to populate stuff?
I think you pretty much mentioned all the ones that we use internally. The only other thing for renderings and things, we use Enscape for a lot of our renderings, and they've really been pushing updates to their asset library. So if you have tools like that, there's some pretty good assets in there.
Yeah, it still is a little bit of an issue. We do a lot of multifamily housing, some emphasis on elderly, depending on the type of project that we do. They don't have, it's a fairly limited amount of elderly people and it's more kind of a business attire versus kind of casual, so you're somewhat limited. They've added the ability with 2.9 to add your own custom content now. So we've got obviously licenses to 3D Studio Max, but most of the firms that I know that use that have somebody running it full time, and there's a budget for libraries and families and things that they add there. So even if that's a possibility, if there's a good workflow to get stuff from 3D Studio into Revit via the Enscape custom content, that might be worth exploring. Just trying to see if anybody has any other resources for something like that.
We've been lucky enough to have hire an in-house detail, person who's responsible for standard details and to go through our models and create new ones and have them we use Unify as our content library. We try not to get people to go outside of our company at this point if we can help it. We try, and I know how it is. People go to past projects and they go to anywhere else they can, but we're trying to develop an in-house standards for all that and unify with a dedicated person, or actually two people now in Portland. It's a luxury, I know. It's something that we just got a couple of years ago, and it's been great having them. It's just a matter of being able to justify having them sometimes.
Yeah, no, and it's different from Photoshop, where if you're doing a still rendering as opposed to an animation where, you know, you're actually moving, and so you need to have, even if the person is standing still, you know, some of the like the face me objects don't necessarily look realistic. So it's not something that you can add in Photoshop to every frame. So anyway, it's something we are struggling with, and looking for other resources.
Ever tried Twinmotion?
Yeah, Twinmotion. I haven't looked at their Entourage library yet. Essentially, I find it very similar from a workflow to Lumion, which I don't dislike, but having to run it as a second program compared to Enscape is a little bit of a disadvantage, where you're maintaining, you know, two versions of the model, and then things that you change in Lumion or Twinmotion, you know, would also have to be updated elsewhere. And so it's good. It does a lot of things very well. The gaming engine is strong. We're just trying to keep it within Revit as much as possible.
Okay, that makes sense. But
Yeah.
there is a link, a plugin for Twinmotion that allows you to link Revit to Twinmotion. Just to let you know.
Okay, thank you.
We've explored another tool called Fuser, very similar to Enscape. I'm not super familiar with it. We've run some demos of it and tried that before, but it's very similar to Enscape, but kind of takes it to another level of animations and things like that. My first gut reaction from that is it wasn't as realistic as Enscape. So I don't know what type of output you're looking for, but I know that has bidirectional linking to where it works very similar to Enscape, and kind of another bonus if you're looking for any changes that you make in that Fuser program, you can sync back to Revit. So if you adjust any furniture layouts during a user meeting or something that you're running through that platform and you shift things around, you can push that right back to your Revit model. But I am unfamiliar with the content that they have or really the output quality, but it's something that we're looking into internally.
Yeah, Fuzor, is that correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've not used it, but I'll take a look at it. I mean, obviously, another thing is, you know, the photorealistic materials. There's a fairly good, I call it pretty inexpensive. It's about $12 a year. Is SketchUpTextures.com, and you can get a lot of PBR, the physically based rendering materials there. But that's good for making Enscape or any other, you know, the high-end renderers. Makes it much more realistic with the bumps and the anisotropy and displacement and normal maps and all that.
Yeah, I can vouch for that too. That's been even what you can get for free is elevate. It'll help elevate a model beyond.
Yeah, it's.
Defaults.
I mean, a lot of the Revit textures, basically, the tiling is obvious, particularly with the, you know, some of the concrete. They've improved it a little bit, but they haven't improved it across the board. And so, whenever you go into the material settings and you see all the triangles, you know, with the exclamation mark, you know, it's a little bit frustrating that they haven't spent a little bit more time adding to that, but it's getting there, I guess.
Will you say the name of that site again?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing.
SketchUpTextureClub.com.
Thanks.
If I go ahead.
They've got probably several hundred different textures of woods and tiles and you know, fabrics and wall coverings, and it's pretty good. It's one of the better ones that I found for getting things close to what I want. In some cases, I'll still use, you know, for all the Sherwin-Williams colors, they've got the Color Snap application where you can just type in the paint code and it'll give you the RGB values. And then some of the older paint finishes in Revit allow you to specify whether it's roller or spray applied. whether it's a flat or semi-gloss or gloss. So those are pretty well done that way.
If I can pivot a little bit here and ask a question of a different output type. So Revit has, I think it's Revit to STL, or it's a free plugin that'll allow you to export STLs, which are used for a number of things, but largely 3D printing. And has anyone here really played with going from Revit to 3D prints? And because I've played around with it myself, it's nice that Revit generates largely watertight geometry out the box, but it's usually not suitable immediately for 3D print.
Yeah, I've messed around with this quite a bit using that tool, and I have also not been able to get it to be successful.
At a certain scale, it actually, on my Prusa, which is a decent printer, it works okay. But, if I start getting into much larger buildings, the thickness of a wall is not going to print appropriately. So I'm going to start losing stuff.
Yeah. I'd be curious if anybody else has been successful. I end up just taking it to SketchUp and making more of a dumbed down mass model and then just print that.
Yeah, same here. Although I did see a while back somebody wrote a Dynamo script that did sort of a shrink wrap of the exterior form of a building. But if I remember correctly, that had a bunch of problems, so probably still doesn't work now. But if I figure out, maybe we'll do a future presentation on that if a good workflow can be developed.
I've never tried to do this, but I am familiar that Format has a watertight feature in it as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know if taking it instead of into SketchUp, taking it into Format might be a better solution before you print it out.
Yeah, that's a worthwhile thought as well.
Even Insight has to create a watertight for the for it has to be analysis. That might also be an option.
I don't know who said they were using Format, but that's the first person I've ever heard suggest that they were a user.
I prefaced it by saying I haven't done it.
Yeah, I do not know anybody using it either.
So I'm still at 0.
For the most part, I've washed a lot of things through Format from going to SketchUp. I'll take a SketchUp file. I'll open it in Format, save it as a Format file, and then bring it into Revit that way.
With the 2021 version of Revit, I found that it brings in the more current versions. I think we're using SketchUp Pro 2020. It brings them in natively, so there's no real conversion that's needed. We've had some success in getting families that we can't find Revit content for and bringing that in. So I'll create a new family and then import CAD, and then you have the option to bring in SketchUp that way. It's a little bit of trial and error of finding out the materials so that it does render well in SketchUp, in Enscape from Revit. But it's been working pretty well in the 2021 Revit version.
So I'd assume you're getting a lot of that stuff from the 3D warehouse then, because they do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's some really good parts in there, and previously it was always the issue of well, I can't ever change the materials, I can't modify it. This comes across fairly well. I can adjust the dimensions as I need to in SketchUp, and then link it in essentially as a CAD file. Just change the extension to SKP, and then it comes in. And sometimes there's a little back and forth of finding out what the material in SketchUp is called, so I can find it in the material list in Revit and then modify it and get it to something a little bit more realistic. We've got Enscape for both. It obviously runs both in SketchUp and Revit, and the better materials from Revit in being physically based are much better, more realistic than directly out of SketchUp. So that's one thing that we're trying to reduce, is the duplication of efforts in SketchUp, because it looks better in Revit anyway. So we've had a lot of success with that here in the new version of Revit, being able to import SketchUp content directly instead of having to use version 8 SKP files.
Any other comments? Any other questions? Well, we're at about an hour, so I think this concludes today's presentation. Thank you for everyone who participated, submitted questions, answered questions. And I hope everyone found today's presentation useful. And I'll be sending out an email. We are recording today's meeting, and it'll be posted on the Central Ohio BIM User Group's YouTube channel. So thank you very much, and I hope everybody has a great week.
You too. Stay safe.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ann, for hosting.
You're very welcome.
Thanks, Ann.
Thanks,
You're
Ann.
very
Thanks, Ann.
welcome. See you next time.